Hey, welcome to the show. I am talking with Kimberley Baker Guillemet.
Yes.
Yes, she's given me permission to flub that one, and I appreciate that. And you have an extremely, yesterday's conversation was amazing. I mean, literally, I normally have time cards, and I was actually over on all my time cards because I was so absorbed by the conversation. You are now a sitting LA criminal judge.
Yes.
You have been a part of the LA. I have it written here, but my handwriting is so bad sometimes. You have done a number of things and you were appointed by the Los Angeles Supreme Court by Jerry Brown. You were also a deputy attorney general attorney general for California for Kamala Harris and Garcetti. So you've been in the system for a long time. You've been a teacher. You're a speaker. You're a fabulous dresser. Uh-huh.
Thank you.
And, one of the things I really enjoyed is you were so accessible through this. Now, look, I have to come clean. Like, I've been in front of quite a few judges, and it hasn't been like this. You're the second judge I've sat in front of that I got to just talk to.
Oh.
I was being, actually tomorrow I will be 14 years sober.
Congratulations.
And before that, I had a number of run-ins with a couple of particular judges in the state of Utah.
Okay.
So I get a little nervous around judges.
Don't be. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
It's
Yeah,
tremendous.
Yeah. And one of the first things that happened when I got sober is I stopped going in front of judges. It was pretty remarkable. And you and Laura talked about being brown and being a brown round girl who became a judge. We talked a little bit about OCD. But I think the most fascinating stuff was your journey being the perpetual outsider, all the way up through growing up, going to school. And when did your book come out?
It came out last year.
Okay,
in
so
December.
it's 1 year out.
Yes.
I was looking for that.
Yes.
And the book is called Black Prep.
Yes.
Yes, and it is a perpetual. It's a journey for being the perpetual outsider.
Life lessons of a perpetual outsider.
Yeah. And so why did you think it was important to write this book?
That's a wonderful question, Scott. I actually had thought about it for a couple years, but I never took action until I felt compelled to do so during 2020. After the George Floyd murder, there was all of this activity on social media called the Black at fill in the blank on Instagram.
Right.
And so there were students from around the country who just came out with their experience at independent schools from all the way from the East Coast clear across the country. And so there probably, I don't know if there was any school that didn't have some type of account where students and alumni were talking about this is what happened. And while I was at the school, and I read it and I said, what I experienced and my synthesis of it is a message that I think can help young people. And so that just really triggered me being very intentional about getting the book written, because I knew that the experiences that I had were still happening.
Right.
And that there needed to be validation, not just of Black kids, but all kids, anyone who's felt like an outsider in these spaces, and not just an elite private school, but any elite space, and to help them understand you're not alone. Other people have felt like you felt, and you will come through it. But I want to tell you a little bit of how I was able to navigate it and what's helped me. So that's essentially the impetus behind it. And I had I think a colorful childhood. So some of it was nice to write. I think it was, somewhat interesting. So
well, and it's interesting is because I think a lot of people explore this subject, but they're angry. You don't seem angry. Is that true? You're and then you feel a responsibility to bring people to the table and talk about it in a way. It feels like for me because I met Laura 14 years ago. I grew up in the South. There wasn't a lot of talk. Like, I didn't get to sit at tables with people of color and talk about things. If I did, it would typically made me very uncomfortable, and I would step away because I always felt like the villain in the story. But I think it's an important, like George Floyd opened that door. I remember, I think it was the morning of George Floyd where I walked into Laura's office and she was struck, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
I was, excuse me, I was angry. I was upset, but I didn't know how to approach it. And I began kind of a campaign of listening, more than I even had done before. But I think it's so important to hear people tell these stories because growing up, I think we always pretended like that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And vice versa. I think your experience and the people who experienced it either thought it was something to get through, get to the other side of, or it was this coded thing.
Yes.
Where you didn't share it with white people and you shared it at the table amongst yourselves.
Yes.
Is that changing?
I think so. And Scott, thank you for what you said, because I'm not angry. I think, yes, some things happened that were unfortunate, but ultimately it was all for the good.
Right.
And I believe that there were opportunities that I benefited from while I was at Marlborough, and I provided benefits by being there to my peers. And I think that's what's lost when we have the anger that prevents us from engaging. Because I think a lot of times when folks think about admitting diverse students into elite spaces, the assumption is that the benefit is only for the diverse student.
Right.
But that is not true.
Right.
The diverse student is bringing countless benefits to that space. Everyone's benefiting. And so if we withdraw and say, because of my anger, I'm not going to be here, I'm not going to share my experience, I'm not going to share my culture, my lens, my view of this world, everyone loses.
Right.
And so for me, being able to go to the school was obviously tremendously beneficial academically and on countless other levels. But I know that my peers benefited from me being there as well. And so what I don't want to happen is for all of us to withdraw into our corners and say, well, it's us against them and we're not going to talk about this anymore, because then we're going to be worse off than we were to begin with. What we need is conversation and understanding. And so I'm not angry. In fact, I love Marlborough. My daughters attend. I think it's tremendous. I have seen tremendous growth, not just at Marlborough, but at schools around the country, because they're aware. Right. And they acknowledge the past. As you indicated, there was a long, long time where the past was swept under the rug. We don't talk about it.
It really was. It was like this side and that side. And either you were moving towards something
That's
good
right.
or you were moving towards something bad. But there seems to be a lot more gray. There's a lot more people who really, I think George Floyd in that whole awakening gave people the opportunity to ask, like,
Absolutely.
hey, how can I do better at this?
Absolutely. And I'll say this. I did an implicit bias training a couple years ago for work, and some of the feedback I got was from the audience was, thank you for not accusing people of wrong.
Right.
Because the reality is the institutions that have been set place in this country have been in place for hundreds of years. No one alive right now set them in place, but we're having to contend with the fallout. And so we have to figure out, how are we going to navigate this? But it's not going to be from pointing fingers at each other.
Well, I think that's such an important thing, because it's just what's happening. It's not like, sure, we can say there's a cause somewhere, but by doing that, we don't seem to look at how we can affect change in the moment. And then, I see you as taking your experience into the justice system and using it as a way to sentence and make, because that's what you pointed out, is you're not deciding whether somebody's guilty or innocent. What you're doing is deciding about the facts of their life, and then how they should be to prevent say the word recidivism.
Yes.
Thank you. how to prevent that, and how to actually make the criminal justice system work so there's progress and healing, which I think is a remarkable use of your position. If you were just angry and you were like, that would be a really unfortunate thing. But that idea, I'm sure, trickles down into society where, say, people get money, they get to be successful, they have bad experiences, and then they're resentful and they're angry. Yeah.
And I think, and thank you for saying that. I think in general, we all need to understand we don't live and exist in a vacuum. We not only impact others by the way we live, but we need each other, and others impact us. And so if we live in a space where we're solely focused on ourselves, we are not only losing benefit personally, but we're withholding benefit socially. And so we cannot if we're going to continue to move forward, we cannot focus on ourselves. We have to think about how we impact other people and also give others the grace that we hope folks will give us.
Do your girls want to be judges?
No, they do not.
Yeah, I have 2 girls too, and I don't know. I think girls are the best, by the way. So,
Yes.
And Laura has the 2 boys, so we have the both things going on. But it's been really. I hope you guys check out the book, Black Prep. I hope you check out yesterday's episode. It's a lovely episode. It's on YouTube as well. And thank you so much for coming out and sharing with us.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for having me.
All right.